So today I'll be discussing the understanding and mastery of collaboration. The understanding and mastery of collaboration methods is an incredibly powerful component that can either make or break a project. Collaboration is where people work together to deliver a project, and since all people are unique with different types of motivations, um, working together amongst a group can easily create tension, it can create conflict and difficulty or failure in producing the desired outcomes of a project. And so, some ways to manage and overcome these obstacles with proper collaboration tools and techniques, they require a shared sense of purpose across the team, they require shared responsibility, and then finally, they require trust. And so, some of the dimensions of collaboration include governance, administration. We also have autonomy, mutuality, and trust and reciprocity. So those are the five different components and dimensions of collaboration, and there are a plethora of tools, techniques, and resources that project managers can use in order to facilitate easy and enlightened collaboration among their team within a project. So, in order to explain some of the aspects of proper collaboration techniques, I'll be using three different scenarios to exemplify how project managers can make sure that their team is using collaboration in a positive light and also really understanding what the objectives of the project are and how to reach those objectives in an efficient way. So the first scenario is that the CEO of a project comes into a project team meeting and then adds an unrelated item to the agenda and then leaves the meeting. So in this case, the issue in the scenario is that the CEO is actually not involved with the discourse of the meeting after adding the item to the agenda. In this case, it'll create a path of ineffective communication. Since the CEO isn't present for the discussion of this item, it'll actually increase the possibility of the item not being discussed, not being completely understood in full, and not being resolved. Without the CEO's perspective there and their explanation of why this line item is important, the team is kind of lost and lets the team have this line item open up to their interpretation. So in this case, a positive way to handle this scenario would be to have the project manager follow up with the CEO and explain how the meetings are structured for this project. We'll go in and offer options for them to contribute and collaborate with the team if their schedule doesn't allow for them to be present or stay in the discussion. So in this case, an understanding of the CEO's autonomy, understanding reciprocity and mutual trust, make sure that they understand that they can contribute this information even though they can't be physically or virtually available. And then make sure that the team can understand where the CEO is coming from. And then it also opens up different lines of communication so that the team knows how to communicate or the paths and channels to communicate with the CEO in a positive way. All right. And then the second scenario. So this scenario is a project manager is told 10 minutes before a presentation that a project kickoff presentation that the team will have to cut this presentation down to 10 minutes. So this presentation will be 30 minutes long and it needs to be 20 minutes long. So 10 minutes prior to this presentation, we have to decide what needs to be cut and eliminated, and then how to restructure this so that we can make the deadline. So in this situation, we'll have to discuss among the team members what they think is going to be the key takeaways for this presentation. If there's any superfluous or like extraneous information that does not need to be included in the presentation up front, or that can be sent to the audience after the meeting. Another way to collaborate is to open up the floor for question and answer. So basically taking away 10 minutes of the end of that presentation where usually the conclusion would be, moving that conclusion to the front and then opening up the floor for questions and answers and discussion is a way to increase collaboration between the audience and between the team. All right, and for the third scenario. So in scenario number 3, we have a team member, the project manager has a team member that doesn't support your idea, and we're going to need to persuade them that my idea or the project manager ideas makes the most sense for this project. In this case, we want to make sure that There's reciprocity going back and forth between the project manager and this team member, that there's trust, that they understand that the team member isn't coming to them in a like a power struggle sort of way, and that the project manager understands that their ideas may not necessarily be the best. By having this type of mindset and this type of shared responsibility and sense of duty with this project, both the team member and the project manager go into a discussion between the pros and cons of this idea, of their respective ideas together, with an open mind. In the end, the project manager will need to go with their idea because it fulfills project goals. So in this scenario, the project manager is responsible for acknowledging, for communicating, and for understanding why the team member would suggest this idea, and then explaining to them in an efficient way why they need to go with their idea in order to meet project goals that were outlined by the project sponsor. Another way for the project manager to drive this home would be to or have the team member explain to the team in either the daily stand-up, daily scrum, or sprint retrospective their idea, and then why the project manager went with their initial idea instead of the team member's idea. In this case, it increases transparency between the team and the project manager. It gives the team member a sense of autonomy, making sure that they understand that they are a valued part of the team, and that their ideas are valid. And then also it opens up the floor for discussion and communication for why that idea might work in the future for different projects, why it might work farther down the line in this project, or kind of identifying why it wouldn't work in this scenario. So those are the three different scenarios where you can find where collaboration can be either used in a positive way or a negative way. And then moving forward with understanding how your team works together, and then how to create trust and autonomy between your team leads to positive communication.